Come close now, child of sorrow. Come sit by this fire that's burning low like the last breath of forgotten souls. I'm an old keeper of chains, a witness born from the belly of those auction blocks where the gavel fell like thunder and split families like dry wood. My voice carries the weight of iron collars that bit into flesh, the wisdom of root doctors who whispered prayers in the dark, and the deep throbbing pain of mothers who watched their babies torn from their arms and sold like cattle under the whip's shadow. Tonight I bring you the story of Hannah de Caravana, the mother who walked 800 kilometers in chains and strangled the devil with that same iron curse come nightfall. Her story isn't written in no white man's book. No, sir, it lives in the wind that still blows through those cotton fields, in the cry of mothers who never saw their children again, in the blood-soaked red clay of Georgia that drank suffering and never forgot. This here's memory made sacred, pain turned to testimony. So hush now and listen to the echoes that refuse to die. The sky cracked open the day they sold baby Ruth. Not with thunder, no, with the sound of a gavel hitting wood. That terrible crack that splits the world in two and sends souls screaming into the abyss. Hannah stood on that auction block in Richmond, Virginia. Her arms empty as a grave, her breast still dripping milk for a child who wasn't there no more, sweet Jesus. The air hung thick with August heat and human misery, the smell of sweat mixing with fear, the stink of white men's greed rising like smoke from hell itself. She'd been standing there since dawn, her feet bare on those hot wooden planks, the sun burning her back raw. Lord of mercy. Around her neck hung the iron collar, already biting into flesh, the weight of it pulling her spirit down toward the red clay earth. Her hands, those hands that had picked cotton till the fingers bled, that had birthed 3 babies in the dark quarters, that had held little Ruth just hours before, now hung at her sides, shaking like dry leaves in a death wind. The crowd pressed close, white faces blurred with heat and whiskey. Planters in fine coats, their eyes cold as river stones, calculating her worth like she was livestock. Traders with leather notebooks scribbling numbers next to souls. Women in bonnets fanning themselves, gossip full of judgment. And there in the front, sitting high on his horse like the devil's own messenger, was Slade. Now listen here, child. Slade wasn't just a man. He was a curse wrapped in human skin, a soul already sold to darkness. Tall and lean like a whip post, eyes the color of winter steel, mouth twisted in a smile that never reached nowhere good. He wore black from head to toe, a preacher's coat stained with road dust and dried blood. Folks swore on their lives they'd seen him break a man's spirit just by looking at him. That man carried heavy spirits, and Slade walked among them like he owned them all. The auctioneer's voice cut through the suffering air. Strong, backed woman, good breeder, 3 live births. Who will start the bidding? Hannah's heart beat like African drums, wild and desperate. Her eyes searched the crowd, searched for Josiah, her 12-year-old boy with the laugh like river water, already sold that morning to a cotton planter heading west. Searched for Eliza, 9 years old with eyes wide as the moon, gone to a fancy house in Charleston, and baby Ruth, Lord of Glory, 11 months old, still kneading her mama's breast, ripped away screaming just an hour past, sold to a woman in a yellow dress who didn't even look at her face. The numbers climbed 700, 800, 900. Slade's voice rang out like a judgment 1,000. The crowd went quiet, deathly quiet. The auctioneer's gavel hovered in the air like a bird of prey. Hannah felt the iron collar tighten, felt her knees want to buckle, but she stood. Strong-willed woman, fierce, she wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her fall. Sold to Mr. Slade for the Mississippi Coffle. The gavel fell. The sky didn't crack again, it just went dark, even though the sun still burned. Hannah felt hands grab her arms, drag her down from the block, chain her wrist to wrist with other souls bound for the same hell. 27 of them, she'd learn later. 27 bodies yoked together for an 800-kilometer march into the Cotton Kingdom's hungry mouth. As they led her away, she turned back one last time, searching for her babies in that sea of white faces. But they was gone, vanished like smoke gone with the wind. And there was Slade sitting on his horse, smiling that devil's smile, his black coat flapping in the hot wind like crow's wings. The iron bit cold, colder than winter river water, colder than an overseer's heart, cold like death itself pressing against living flesh. Hannah felt it close around her neck that first time, heard the metal click shut like a coffin lid, felt the weight settle on her shoulders like all the sorrow in the world had found a home. Lord have mercy. The collar was thick as a man's wrist, rusted at the edges where other souls' blood had dried and flaked away. It rubbed raw against her collarbone, scraped the soft hollow of her throat with every breath. "Get in line!" Slade's voice cracked through the suffering air. They stood in the yard behind the auction house, 27 souls now chained neck to neck, wrist to wrist, a human serpent of misery waiting to crawl south. The late afternoon sun beat down like a cruel master's hand, turning skin to leather, drawing sweat that stung where the iron had already opened wounds. Hannah's eyes moved along the line, memorizing faces she'd walked beside all the way to hell. There was Isaiah, a giant of a man, strong-backed and fierce-looking, with shoulders broad as an ox yoke and hands that had known the blacksmith's hammer. His face was a mask of stone, but his eyes, sweet Jesus, his eyes held fire that wouldn't be put out. Beside him stood Delilah, a root woman from the tobacco lands, her grey hair wrapped in a faded cloth, lips moving in silent prayer to ancestors only she could see. Behind Hannah was Moses, no relation to the famous one, just a field hand with scars across his back like a map of suffering, meddling in small rebellions that had cost him pieces of his soul. Further down the line, Mercy, 16, scared to death, belly just starting to show with the child she'd been forced to carry. Old Samuel, 70 if he was a day, blind in one eye from an overseer's fist. Feet so swollen they looked like they might burst. Little Jacob couldn't be more than 8, holding tight to his sister Pearl's hand, both of them orphaned when Master sold their mama down river. Ruth, not Hannah's Ruth, another Ruth, heavy-hearted and lost in this world, who kept whispering the Lord's Prayer over and over like it might break the chains if she said it enough times. 27 souls, some strong, some weak, some already half dead inside, all bound for the deep South's cotton kingdom, where the work killed you slow and the heat killed you fast. Slade circled them on his horse, that black coat flapping, whip coiled at his side like a sleeping snake. 2 other white men rode with him, Cutler, mean-eyed and tobacco-stained, and Briggs, younger but no less wicked, with a rifle across his saddle and a look that said he'd use it for sport. Listen here, Slade's voice cut through. We got 800 kilometers to walk. You fall, you stay fallen. You run, the dogs hunt you. You cause trouble, you meet the post. Clear, silence thick as swamp water. I said clear. Yes, sir, they mumbled, a chorus of broken spirits. Slade's eyes scanned the line and stopped on old Samuel. The old man was swaying on his feet, breath coming in short gasps, swollen legs barely holding him up. The devil smiled. That one won't make it past sundown tomorrow, Slade said to Cutler loud enough for everyone to hear. Waste of chain space. Old Samuel's one good eye went wide with fear. Hannah felt her heart clench. The old ones warned us about men like this, men who saw souls as nothing but dollars and pounds of flesh. Slade got off his horse, walked slow along the line, boots crunching on gravel. He stopped in front of a woman Hannah hadn't noticed before, Esther, maybe 35, with a belly round as the moon, 8 months pregnant, maybe more. She stood with one hand protecting that unborn child, the other gripping the chain that connected her to Isaiah. This one's carrying, Slade said like he'd just discovered something interesting. How far along? Esther's lips trembled. 7 months, Master. Slade laughed, a sound like nails on a coffin. Well, we got ourselves a problem. He turned to face them all, the devil's smile spreading wide. See, a pregnant woman slows the whole line down. And I don't accept slowness. The iron collar suddenly felt heavier. Hannah's breath caught. Isaiah's massive hands clenched into fists. Delilah's lips moved faster in prayer. Slade pointed at old Samuel and then at Esther. One of you won't see Alabama, maybe both. He got back on his horse, looked down at them like a god of cruelty. We march at dawn. 20 miles a day, rain or shine, heat or cold. You fall, you stay for the buzzards. He pointed directly at Esther, his finger like a curse. And I'm already pointing at you, girl. You and that baby aren't my concern. Dawn broke red as blood over Virginia clay. The sky looked like it was bleeding child. Streaks of red stretching across the horizon like wounds that wouldn't close. And those old folks say, when the dawn comes red like that, death is walking close behind. Lord have mercy. Hannah woke to the sound of chains rattling, bodies stirring in the dirt where they'd slept the night. 27 souls bound together like cattle waiting for slaughter. Her neck throbbed where the iron collar had rubbed raw. Her wrists ached from the shackles, and her breast still leaked milk for a baby who was gone, staining the thin cotton shift they'd given her at the auction house. Up on your feet. Cutler's voice split the dawn like an axe. They rose slow, bodies stiff and hurting, the chain pulling tight as each person struggled to stand. Old Samuel groaned loud, his swollen legs barely holding him. And down the line, Esther clutched her pregnant belly, face twisted in pain. Hannah's eyes found Isaiah. That giant man looked back at her with something like recognition, like he knew they were bound by more than iron. Now they were bound by survival. Slade came out of his tent, black coat already on despite the heat that was building, hat pulled low over those winter steel eyes. He walked the line slow, inspecting his property, whip coiled at his belt like a sleeping serpent ready to strike. Sweet Jesus. When he stopped in front of old Samuel, the silence got thick as swamp water. Still breathing, old man. Slade's voice carried mockery sharp as broken glass. Samuel's one good eye looked up. Yes, sir, Master, still here. We'll see how long that lasts. Slade moved on, stopped at Esther, looked at her belly like it offended him. You better keep up, girl. That baby isn't going to slow my profit. They fed them then, corn mush in a trough like they were hogs. No plates, no spoons, just hands scooping up what little food Master's mercy allowed. Water came from a single bucket passed down the line, 27 mouths drinking from the same rusty dipper. Hannah forced herself to eat, even though her throat closed up with grief. Got to stay strong, she told herself, got to live to see my babies again. Move out, the march began. Step by curse step, they walked south on that red clay road, the sun climbing higher and turning the world into a furnace. The chain connecting them pulled and jerked with every movement. When one stumbled, the whole line felt it. When one fell, they all stopped. Slade rode ahead on his horse, Cutler and Briggs on either side of the line with rifles ready. Whips cracked in the air whenever someone slowed. By midday, the heat was killing heat, the kind that makes you see things that aren't there, that pulls the water right out of your body and leaves you dizzy and sick. Old Samuel was falling behind, dragging his feet, breath coming in short gasps that sounded like death rattling in his chest. The chain pulled tighter on Hannah's neck as he struggled, and she turned back to see him. Come on, old father, she whispered, though Slade had forbidden talk, just a little further. But Samuel's legs gave out. He collapsed in the middle of that red clay road, hitting the ground hard, and the whole line jerked to a stop. The iron collars bit into necks, wrists twisted in shackles, and somewhere down the line, little Jacob started crying. Slade turned his horse around, that black coat flapping like death's own wings. What did I say about falling? Please, master, Delilah called out, her root woman's voice strong despite the fear. He just needs water and rest. Please, sir, have mercy. Mercy, Slade laughed that nail on coffin laugh. Mercy is what got us here in the first place. Too much mercy, not enough profit. He got off his horse, walked over to where Samuel lay gasping in the dirt. This one's done. No. The word burst from Hannah's mouth before she could stop it. No, he can make it. Give him a chance. Slade's eyes fixed on her, cold, calculating, cruel. You speaking out of turn, girl. Hannah's heart hammered like African drums, but she stood her ground. Strong-willed woman, fierce. He's an elder, sir. He deserves. The whip cracked, not on her, but on Isaiah's back. The giant man didn't even flinch, but the message was clear: speak again and someone else pays. Slade unlocked Samuel's collar, removed him from the chain like he was throwing away a broken tool. The old man lay in the dirt, breathing shallow, that one good eye looking up at the sky like he was already seeing heaven. He slows us down. He stays. Slade's voice was flat as a judge's sentence. Rest of you keep moving. We got 19 miles to go before nightfall. But Master, Delilah started. Move. They moved. Lord of Glory, they moved. Leaving old Samuel there in the middle of that red clay road, leaving him to die alone under the Virginia sun. Hannah looked back once and saw him raise one trembling hand, whether in blessing or farewell. She couldn't tell. The tears burned her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Wouldn't give Slade the satisfaction. That night they camped by a creek. Slade was in a foul mood, drinking whiskey by the fire while Cutler and Briggs stood guard. The enslaved sat in their chains, too tired to even whisper prayers. But Slade wasn't done with his cruelty. You! He pointed at Hannah, the one who spoke up. Come here. Hannah's blood went cold, but she stood, the chain pulling on the others as she moved toward the fire. Isaiah tensed beside her, his massive fists clenching. But what could he do? What could any of them do? Slade pulled out a small leather-bound book, its pages filled with cramped handwriting. He opened it, running his finger down a list. Hannah, age 28, 3 live births, purchased for Fonsalven. He looked up at her, that devil's smile spreading. You know what this is? She shook her head. This is my ledger. Every soul in this coffle, I got your name, your price, your value written down. You're all just numbers to me, merchandise. He snapped the book shut. But since you care so much about that old man we left behind, you can dig his grave. Sir, you heard me. Back there, mile marker 18, you're going to walk back in these chains? Dig a hole with your bare hands, and when we find his body tomorrow, you're going to bury him proper. Cutler will escort you. The night was heavy with spirits, child. Hannah walked back up that road, Cutler riding beside her with his rifle ready, the moon hanging low and yellow like an eye watching from the darkness. When they found Samuel's body, already stiff, already visited by buzzards, she fell to her knees and started digging in that red clay with her bare hands. The earth was hard, her fingers blood, but she dug. Tears finally falling now that no one but the dead could see. She dug until the hole was deep enough, then rolled Samuel's body into it, whispering the old prayers her mama had taught her, the ones in a language the Middle Passage had tried to drown but couldn't. As she covered him with earth, she saw something fall from Cutler's saddlebag, Slade's ledger, dropped careless. She snatched it quick, hid it in her shift before Cutler noticed. When she opened it later by firelight, she saw all their names, all their prices written in Slade's cold hand. And she made a promise right then, kneeling beside old Samuel's grave with red clay under her fingernails and death in the air. One day she'd burn that ledger, and she'd burn Slade with it.